Good morning, everyone. My name is Ken Tai Yong. I'm the Associate Dean for External Engagements at the Faculty of Engineering. Welcome to today's opening sessions for the first University of Sydney Net Zero Initiative Conference and the third Australian Circular Economy Conference, as well as the people attending in persons. I will also welcome all those joining remotely. We begin by acknowledging the traditions of the custodianship and the law of the country on which the University of Sydney campuses stand. And we here are on the land of Gadigal people of Euro nations, and we pay our respect to those who have cared and continue to care for the country. Now, firstly, for our in-person audience, can I ask you to please turn off your mobile phones and turn them to silence? Today, we'll be hearing from the Chair of Australian Circular Economy Conference, Professor Ali Abbas, and who will provide some opening remarks. We'll then hear from the University of Sydney Provost and Deputy Vice Chancellors, Professor Anna-Marie Jagos, which will be followed by a video message from Honourable Ed Husick, Minister for Industry and Science. We are delighted to have Ms. Felicity Wilson, the New South Wales Parliamentary Secretary to the Treasurer and for the COVID recovery with us to provide a short address on behalf of the New South Wales governments. The second part of our opening sessions will be facilitated by Dr. Claire Anderson, Director of the Sustainability Performance at Worley and our new Chair for the Net Zero Initiative Industry Advisory Board. She will lead an industry panel discussions on the value of industries and academic collaborations in the pursuit of net zero. In closings, we'll hear from our Dean, Professor Willie Zwanapol, to provide some final remarks and officially open the conference. Like many of you, I look around the world and see flooding, fire, extreme weather events, record heat waves in the Arctic, massive biodiversity loss, and can't help but feel overwhelmed. History is calling us, and the onus is on this generations of scientists, industry leaders, and policymakers to reduce the pressures on the planet and limit temperature increases. This extraordinary task will require unprecedented cooperations across communities, governments, industries, not-for-profits, and the research sectors. And it is the very reasons that the University of Sydney launched the Net Zero Initiative in 2021. Our vision is bold: to position Australia as a global destination point for net zero and decarbonization technologies, research collaborations, commercializations, startups, educations, training, and investments. Australia has extraordinary advantages: solar and wind resources, renewable technologies, mineral resources, land mass, and infrastructures that can take us to be a global superpower in the net zero emissions. As Ross Garnett outlined in his new book, The Superpower Transformations, we have the unique capabilities to remove 8% of the global emissions, which would make us number 3 in emissions reduction in the world. The global demand for zero and low emission technologies, infrastructures, materials, products, and services will drive the new startups, industries, and economies for decades to come. Already, we are seeing an enormous shift in the global expenditures, with an estimate of $2.4 trillion will be invested every year in the next 15 years to limit the global temperatures to rises to 1.5 degrees Celsius. But as a business, policymakers, manufacturers, agriculturalists, utility, or even service providers, it can be difficult or hard to know where to start. What are the knowledge, collaboration, and technology gaps? At what point do you need to address these gaps to accelerate your net zero journeys? The Net Zero Initiative is about helping Australian industries, urban, regional, and remote, gain first mover advantage globally by quickly understanding and developing and adopting innovative and commercially viable emissions reduction technologies. The 4 enabling themes of Net Zero Initiative are emission avoidance through zero emission energies, climate change risk, carbon removal, and emission avoidance through demand reductions. Now, this allowed us to quickly bridge the gap with industries. under these 4 enabling themes. We have 12 key pillars. Our pillar leads are in the audience today, and we encourage you to meet with them in the break. Our pillars are focused on what is relevant to industries and the governments rather than blue sky research. At this point, I would like to take a moment to reflect our Net Zero Initiative achievement for this year, 2022. Firstly, the Net Zero Initiative Industry Advisory Board was launched, chaired by Dr. Claire Anderson, Director of Sustainability Performance at Woolly. We welcome the board members to our conference today and for their first board meeting. 5 seed grants were awarded and matched by industry, totaling up to $400,000 from our seed funding partners, Rio Tinto, Hazer Groups, Southern Green Gas, ASAC Consultancies, and the Government of New South Wales. 2 industry PhD scholarships were established with Woolly under the Climate Change Risk Enabling Team. A seed funding round for 2023 Net Zero Initiative Masterclass and Micro-Credentials, focusing on sustainability and corporate governance, was launched this year. And lastly, we co-funded the power fuel streams in the New South Wales Decarbonization's Innovation Hub. While what is happening globally is deeply concerning, as I look around at the depth of the research across the Net Zero Initiative and the Australian circular economy, I can't but help feeling hopeful and optimistic that we will find solutions for a more positive future for the next generations by working together with the governments and industries to build a path towards net zeros and circular societies. I would now like to introduce Professor Ali Abbas, the chair of the 3rd Circular Economy Conference and the Net Zero Initiative Pillar Lead for Materials and Embodied Carbon. Ali, please.
Thank you, Kentai. Good morning to you all, and thanks to each one of you for making it today in person and online. I acknowledge that we are on Gadigal land, and it is just fantastic to be standing here and seeing you all. The UN Climate Change Conference of the Parties, COP, has just taken place this year in Egypt as COP27, which brought together global leaders to drive climate action. Let me start by emphasizing that the transition to renewable energy is only half the story. We need to also be considering materials along the way. 45% of global greenhouse gas emissions come from the way we make and use materials, products, and food. Our take, make, dispose consumption patterns have led to widespread resource depletion. We are breaching planetary boundaries and have all become ever so familiar with common headlines such as more plastic in the ocean than fish, 3 billion plus tons of waste by 2050, 10,000 acres of rainforest lost, or biodiversity losses, or climate crisis. The transition to a circular economy is absolutely vital in tackling climate change and other global challenges, including waste, biodiversity, and pollution. But what is the circular economy? Well, the circular economy means many different things to many different people. It suffices today to say that the circular economy is a systems solution framework that tackles global challenges mentioned. It is based on 3 principles: design out waste and pollution, circulate products and materials in the economy at the highest value, and regenerate nature. The Net Zero Initiative, NZI, at the University of Sydney addresses the climate challenge through the nexus of energy and materials. Let me share one example of the interdependency of energy and materials systems. Taking solar panels as an example. We are a world leader in rooftop solar installations in Australia, with 3 million such systems installed, which is more than 30% of Australian homes and rapidly increasing. My estimate is that this translates to 54 million panels. And that, if stacked up flat, like they do in IKEA, will equate to 214 Everests. Lined up end to end, this is equal to 2.5 times the length of the Earth equator. So what becomes of this stock of materials? So you see there is an imperative for circular-led or circular design-led approaches for renewable energy systems, approaches that lead to product longevity and utility. Technology alone is not the solution. We need to better design the circular business models around the technology, the economics part of the circular economy equation. We need to attend to the demand side. Efficiency improvements of products and processes will be by far the biggest contributor to emissions mitigation. The Waste Transformation Research Hub at the Faculty of Engineering is a key member of the NZI, and it is driven by the circular economy mantra of design, manufacture, reuse. Through this approach, we would reduce emissions and be closer to meeting the targets set out by the Paris Agreement 2015. This conference brings together net zero and circular economy. Two joint conferences built on the successes of the first and second Australian Circular Economy conferences. I invite you all to participate and to define for yourself what circular economy means, and to tease out those links between energy and materials emerging throughout the conference sessions, and to partner and collaborate on the transition pathways. I'm really excited about the opportunities that lay ahead for all of us to innovate and work together to resolve the energy and materials challenges, and to meet and speak with many of you throughout the next 3 days. So again, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ali Abbas. I would like to introduce the University of Sydney Provost and Deputy Vice-Chancellor Executive Sponsor for the Sustainability Strategies. It is with the support of Provost and Sustainability Strategies that we are putting sustainability at the heart of our campus operations, environments, and engagements activities. With that, Anne-Marie, please.
Good morning, colleagues, visitors, and colleagues both. As Kentai has just explained, as Provost and Deputy Vice-Chancellor, I'm the executive sponsor for the university's sustainability strategy, and very proud to be so. I think Kentai and Ali's opening comments have told us what I think we already know, that in this endeavour we are facing a massive task, a motivating task, but a task that no sector or organisation, let alone individual, could hope to tackle in a solitary or solo way. I'm very pleased to be able to say that the University of Sydney is one of the world's most sustainable institutions. Very recently, the QS World University Rankings, a pretty prestigious ranking system known very well to those of us who work in higher education, introduced a new annual ranking system for sustainability, an interesting development in itself, since I think it indicates that the ranking system, which are primarily used for students to make decisions about which institutions they pick, I think this indicates the increasing importance that our students and younger generations are necessarily and logically investing in sustainability issues. These ranking systems evaluate the social and environmental impact of universities, not only as major employers with the operational sustainability challenges of any large, complex organisation, but also as centres of education and as centres of research that uniquely, I think, have the potential to change behaviour and outcomes. And in the recently released inaugural QS Sustainability Rankings, the University of Sydney is ranked 5th globally and 1st in Australia. Since the middle of the year, the university is powered by 100% renewable energy. We're performing well against our peers, but we continue to press on several challenging sustainability aspirations. Our targets include net zero emissions by 2030, zero waste to landfill by 2030, Green Star ratings at least for all new buildings, and mandatory sustainable procurement practices across every aspect of the university to reduce waste and to boost social sustainability. The Net Zero initiative aligns powerfully with the university's strategic vision for our sustainable futures. And I think we have to give a big credit to the strategic vision and energy of the Dean, Willie Zwain-Pol, and his team. It seems hard to remember that less than 24 months ago, we stood or sat in this very room and launched the NZI, and how much work has gone on in the interim under that banner. The Net Zero initiative now successfully connects over 100 leading researchers across engineering, science, urban planning, renewables, policy, carbon accounting, and behavioural science. NZI aspires to connect, to link up with government, with industry and communities, to swiftly manufacture and adopt cost-effective, low-emissions technologies at scale. With a strong track record of investing in state-of-the-art facilities and attracting some of the world's most innovative leaders in this space, the University of Sydney is well positioned to drive this ambitious initiative. And NZI research has already underpinned new industries, new businesses, new technologies. And hence, this first University of Sydney Net Zero Initiative Conference run jointly with the third Australian Circular Economy Conference, bringing together colleagues of like mind and ambition here on campus, but also through virtual connection. And I'd like to genuinely and warmly welcome participants from all sectors of the community, including researchers, but also industry startups, government and non-government, not-for-profit organisations who are coming together across these days to share their knowledge from different policy, research, education, business and industry perspectives on net zero and circular economies and the hope and promise of a better future for us all. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Jagos, for your support of the Net Zero Initiative and for championing the university's sustainability strategies. I would now like to introduce a video message from the Honourable Ed Husics, Minister for Industry and Science. As this is a parliamentary sitting week, Minister Husic could not join us in person.
I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which I'm speaking to you today, the Ngunnawal people in Canberra. And I'm sorry I can't be there to join you in person, but I trust you'll benefit from today's discussions because good climate and energy policy is good economic policy as well. And reaching our net zero goals requires an urgent systems-wide change to how we live and work. A circular economy will ensure that we're on track to make these changes and support energy transformation. Seems like a simple idea, reusing inputs into our economy more than once to retain their value and reduce environmental impact. But it's a transformative idea as well that can help us reach our climate targets while backing economic prosperity and national well-being. That's why the work you're doing at this week's conference is so important. Putting our economy on a shared path to net zero will create new jobs, enable supply chain resilience, help retain the value of materials within the economy. And of course, it'll contribute to our climate change and sustainability goals. It's a great opportunity to create manufacturing systems that are optimised to be less resource intensive, produce less waste, have less impact on the environment. The Albanese government will help this come to fruition through our Future Made in Australia policy and the $15 billion National Reconstruction Fund, so we can help rebuild Australia's industrial base, manufacturing capability, and take advantage of the opportunities from a net zero economy. We want to back Australian know-how and support Australian industry by using the government's purchasing power, and our Buy Australian plan will improve the way we use this spending power and also help us take action on climate change. Our industries, economy and environment stand to benefit from circularity. A circular economy will pave the way for new technologies and a new era of prosperity for Australian manufacturing. That's why the partnerships and collaboration you develop this week will play an important role in the months and years to come. Now is the right time to encourage the growth of Australia's circular economy. I look forward to working with you to achieve our net zero goals. Thank you so much.
We would like to thank the ministers for taking the time to record this video. and we appreciate his insightful comments. We are very pleased to have the New South Wales Government support here today, represented by Ms. Felicity Wilson. Felicity has served as the member for the North Shore in the Parliamentary for New South Wales since 2017, and is the Parliamentary Secretary for the Treasurer and for COVID recovery in the Parody Liberal governments. Working alongside with the New South Wales Treasurer, Felicity is focused on the pursuit of economic and social reforms to improve future opportunities, particularly for women and children, and on ensuring New South Wales meets the challenge of climate change and fulfill its potentials to become a renewable energy superpower. To deliver on this, Felicity has had courage for the passage for legislations through the Parliament to support government's policy objective to make New South Wales an energy economic superpower. She also works across the community to ensure people and businesses have the support they need as the New South Wales bounce back from the COVID and faces uncertain economic times. I would now like to welcome to the lectern Ms. Felicity Wilson.
Thank you very much, Kentai. And may I also echo your acknowledgement of the traditional owners of the land we meet on, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm very grateful to be with you at your conference today as you kick off the 3 days here, I believe, of the two conferences. And I know that the collaboration between the university's Net Zero initiative and that pre-existing circular economy conference is to be applauded. So congratulations. We do need all of our best and brightest minds engaged as we take on this massive task of transforming our economy to a clean, prosperous future. We want to harness that power of collaboration between researchers, industry, capital, startups, not-for-profits and, of course, governments. And we understand the need to invest in technology and innovation that can both benefit the environment and also help our industries to prosper. Our government's Net Zero Industry and Innovation Program commits more than $1 billion to that challenge to support our emissions reductions goals. We're offering grants and incentives to seed new technologies and commercial opportunities that can both support industry in the transition, as well as equip New South Wales with enormous export opportunities. These grants also back the bright ideas of clean technology startups and researchers, and they'll support incubators and accelerators. This includes the development of commercially viable technology and services to reduce emissions in high-emitting or hard-to-abate sectors, as well as infrastructure to accelerate the innovation of clean technologies. Also included in the package is a $475 million investment via the new Low Carbon Industry Foundations program. It will lay the platform for low emissions to industries by building enabling infrastructure and a strong and resilient clean manufacturing base here in New South Wales. We believe it will help underpin our work to drive the emergence of green hydrogen, green cement, green ammonia and green steel production here in New South Wales. And we've already witnessed remarkable interest in our plans for our hydrogen hubs. We've recently shortlisted 10 projects across New South Wales to submit full applications to develop hydrogen hubs, representing up to 7 gigawatts of proposed electrolyser capacity by 2030. But our efforts to build a more sustainable future can't start and stop at the electricity grid, as crucial as that is. New South Wales also has a nation-leading strategy to cultivate a circular economy in which we reduce waste, increase recycling and enhance resource recovery. Under our Waste and Sustainable Materials Strategy 2041, we've already committed $356 million in funding. We've begun the phase-out of problematic single-use plastic items. Starting in July just this year, we've unlocked funding across a host of initiatives. These include investments in support of strategic waste and circular economy infrastructure that's working with local government and industry to deliver results at scale. We've committed $37 million to fund a boost to the use of low emissions recycling materials in the construction and manufacturing sectors. And there's $65 million dedicated to support the rollout of new organics collection services and the development of new organics processing capacity. And we're supporting research into new technologies and uses for recycled material by encouraging pilots on government projects. These are all part of our efforts as a government to see New South Wales claim its place as a pioneer and a powerhouse in a zero carbon, zero waste economy. We can both benefit our environment and boost our economic prosperity by doing so. Thank you all for your contribution to the cause, and I wish you the best of luck throughout the conferences. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Felicity Wilson, for those inspiring remarks. We now come to our panel sessions. The members of the panels are our co-funded Net Zero Initiative SID Award awardees, and the sessions will be facilitated by Dr. Claire Anderson, Chair of the Net Zero Initiative Industry Advisory Board, and who will introduce the panels. May I ask you all to come to the front for these sessions. Thank you.
Great. Hi, everyone. Lovely to see everyone, and hopefully you can hear me okay. It's great to be here for the panel, and we've got 3 esteemed speakers, each representing different industries with different challenges. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by asking everyone to just give a brief introduction of who you are and your affiliation with the university in terms of what you've been doing. So I'll start with you, Anna. And if you could introduce yourself and just give us a bit of background on what you've been doing with the University of Sydney.
Yeah, absolutely. So ASAC Consultancy is an innovative and strategic healthcare consultancy that collaborates with industry and academic partners to deliver holistic and sustainable healthcare solutions. So some examples of our areas of expertise include healthcare, aged care, Aboriginal health, COVID-19 outbreak management, emergency disaster management, development and implementation of policy procedures and systems. So the long-range hydrogen drone projects stem from working in rural remote regions. So personally, I remember when working in one location in central Queensland, which was very remote, patients passing away from delayed diagnostics and treatment from, simple infections that, if detected at an early stage would make a full recovery. In addition, personally witnessed, a high mortality and morbidity rate of the population living in these regions from lack of, from not receiving basic essential health services in a timely manner, such as pathology and medication. So in some of these regions, it takes up to 4 days, for someone to travel to have basic pathology and medications. And we know that having that delay in diagnostics and treatment has a significant impact on the outcome of the patient. So this is how the idea of a drone servicing these regions was developed. And I did our own research into, what was out there and, the capability of the drones that were available, and none had the capabilities to be able to reach the distance, to fly the distance, to make a difference. So at that point of time, we thought, well, we'll develop our own drone. And through a sequence of events, we're very fortunate to have met Professor Dries Verstati, and that's how our collaboration with the University of Sydney began. So now we're in the process, in partnership with the University of Sydney, in developing a drone that can fly up to 1,000 kilometres and can have a significant difference in the outcome of the health inequalities and health inequities of the population living in these regions. So that's how that's how we all commenced. And we're also developing a refrigerated vibration reducing compartment that will meet the regulatory requirements to be able to transport pathology, blood products, medications, and medical equipment as well. So we're hoping that, in relation to being able to, the population being able to receive timely diagnostics and medications and so on, we're expecting to see a decline in the morbidity and mortality rates of the population in these regions. So, yes.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Anna. And a great intersection there between healthcare and energy transition and new technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And with Professor Dries Verstraet's, developing the concept of a green hydrogen drone, it aligned with ASAC's values in looking at, environmentally friendly solutions. So it was a perfect collaboration.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Anna. And if I could move on to you now, Stuart, from Rio Tinto and what you've been doing with the NZI and the work there.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Stuart Watson from Rio Tinto. I'm very humbled and privileged to work within what's called the Office of the Chief Scientist within Rio Tinto. So it's a team focused on supporting the wider Rio Tinto across all our product groups, our exploration function, our closure team on standing up, developing in partnership a whole host of new technologies. One of our key partnerships, perhaps our most pivotal partnership since 2007, has been with the University of Sydney. We have a relationship with the Australian Centre for Field Robotics here in Sydney. It's called the Rio Tinto Centre for Mine Automation, and it's been absolutely instrumental and pivotal in developing our automation program. Automation within Rio Tinto isn't just about the trucks. That's what gets a lot of the headlines. These very big 230, 330 ton trucks moving around autonomously now, but it's also about the drills. It's also about the rail system, and has been absolutely kind of integral to how we've started, I think, to kind of set a new stage for mining. We're looking to develop that relationship very much. It was kicked off in 2007. We're looking to kind of build on that automation platform to help with things like nature solutions, things like renewables build out. And it's all very much founded on a partnership that I think has been very two-way, very collaborative, and is very much a role model for how we as Rio Tinto would like to continue to work.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Stuart. And last but not least, in terms of the introductions, and then I'm going to ask a question around the benefits of working hand in hand. So we have a slide for Brett. Here we go. Okay. Fantastic.
Yeah, a picture worth 1,000 words. So we are the industry partner for Professor Deanna D'Alessandro and the work she's doing in developing metal organic framework material for capturing CO2. So what we do is we take that material and incorporate it into a solar-powered unit, which we're demonstrating there. You can see a single unit there on the side, and then we put those together to create a CO2 capture field. So it's going to look like a solar farm as you go past on the road, but eventually we can develop these to scale where we can capture millions of tonnes. So what we're doing is taking the world-leading chemistry and putting it into a workable module and creating a product. So if we can go to the second slide, this goes to what we've been talking about with circular economy and so forth. If we can capture CO2 from the atmosphere, we can think of it really as a foundation technology. So the first thing we can do is we can capture the CO2 and bury it deeply in geosequestration storage sites to create carbon removals. So that's negative emissions, and we've got a topic on that later today. But coming to the circular economy side of things, when we capture CO2, we can make things out of it. We can make fuel, fibre and food out of CO2. So what you're seeing there is our conception of for Australia of a concept that's being promoted in the US, which is called DAC hubs, direct air capture hubs. So this is something that we could develop at a vast scale, including in regional New South Wales, where we have marginal land, very large amounts of it, very low cost, very high solar intensity, and a lot of it is in locations where we have access to rail lines and we have access to pipelines. So what we can do then is take the CO2, combine it with green hydrogen, and make products for both the domestic and export market. So that's what we're doing with the university.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Brett. And so you can see from our panellists here just the breadth of the work that's going on with the University of Sydney around the Net Zero initiative. And I think what's really important about initiatives like the Net Zero initiative is getting the pull-through of technologies out into, commercial applications. We've only got 28, soon to be 27 years until we need to get to net zero by mid-century. So there's a lot of work to do, and certainly technology is a big part of it. So what I'd like to ask each of the panellists now is, from your perspective, what is your advice in terms of, for the research world, in terms of being able to work with industry and to help create those collaborative partnerships? So I'm going to start with you, Brett.
I think communication, things like this, trying to identify for the public generally and for both the government financiers and corporate financiers where what we are doing is hitting on points of interest to them. How are we meeting the current challenges? So in our view, for example, we think of carbon as not only the problem, it's actually the solution. If we can manage carbon, as I was trying to illustrate before, we can create a lot of positive things. Those positive things are going to create jobs. They're going to create investment opportunities. They're going to probably generate votes. So if we can translate those things into the audiences, then it's going to be all about communication to them.
Right, fantastic. And social licence, just to pick up on that as well, Brett. That's
social licence is absolutely crucial.
Part.
Absolutely crucial. The second slide we put up there starts to illustrate the amount of land that we're going to need. So our needs are similar to solar farms and wind farms, and this is one of the other things we'll touch on later. But the need to develop strong social licence to operate, to create co-benefits, as they're called, are very, very important, and working with the university makes that possible.
Fantastic. Thanks, Brett. And Stuart, if I could ask you as well around what your advice to working for people working in research.
Yeah, so I'd make two points. The first, I think, builds on what you've just spoken to. It very much comes down to people. Very much kind of making sure that you truly want to kind of collaborate, work together. Not just in terms of the overarching sort of challenge that kind of you're working on, but from the day-to-day side of things, do you have people that are willing kind of to talk to one another, learn from one another, and find that kind of common ground? That for me is kind of truly important, and overlaying the right ways of driving projects on top of that. I think probably that's the most fundamental. The other point for me as well is the challenge that you're trying to solve for. It's important to be focused on a key area, but it's important not to be kind of too narrow. So you need to find a way of sort of solving for those things, because there is an ebb and flow in the relationship in terms of what you're working on. And if you're too narrow, at least in our experience, that doesn't always kind of play out in the way that you'd like it to. So people and finding kind of the breadth and commonness of the challenge would be my two key points.
Great, thanks very much, Stuart. And Anna?
Yeah, so the same, that social licence and, having effective communication, working out, priorities as well, and also, working out the timelines. But I think, communication is, really critical, having that effective communication and being on the same page and having those same values and priorities.
Fantastic. Great. So we've spoken about communication, collaboration, social licence, themes that are very, similar across, very different fields that you each work in. Are there any final comments that anyone would like to? Anna, you look like you're poised to say something. No?
I was just going to say, there's many benefits that I found, collaborating with the unis. So, an idea that may have seemed, impossible is able to be achieved, through collaboration. And I think that's what's been achieved with the partnership with the University of Sydney, marrying up ASAC's healthcare expertise with the University of Sydney's aeronautical engineering and hydrogen fuel cell technology. So I think, that collaborating with academia has many benefits to it, and I think you can achieve, great things as well in relation to that. So, and also having that, that evidence-based research, which is critical in, driving further technology. So, yes.
Fantastic. Thanks, Anna.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to add that we've found working with Deanna and her team is a concept we are very interested in when you've got industry working with academia, is a concept of design for manufacture. So when we work with Deanna, she's thinking with us and we're feeding to her what are the things that can be done so that the product being developed is something we can actually manufacture and get to market. And another key thing that we focus on is things like the embedded carbon and the capacity to, as we've been talking about, circularise, reuse material. And I know that that's a key thing that Deanna starts with when she's thinking about the basic building material, which is moths, the actual moth powder that traps the CO2. But then we go on to think about it in the rest of the module that we put up on the screen before. So design for manufacture is a crucial thing, a crucial reason why industry and academia should work together. It overcomes that problem of inventions which never get out of the lab.
Yes, that valley of death where all the great ideas sort of fall flat and don't make it through to the next, and where we desperately need as many technology solutions as possible. Any final thoughts from?
I was just going to mention one last thing, that having access to leading research experts. So, for example, working with Professor Dries Verstati, who's one of Australia's leading experts in hydrogen fuel cells for aviation, but also having access to 2 decades of experience with fuel cell innovation, and having the capabilities of a wide range of academics and students as well as part of this process, and having access also to testing facilities. So the University of Sydney has a state-of-the-art aeronautical facilities, including several wind tunnels and flight test facilities. So we've got access to all of that as part of that collaboration. So there's many benefits to collaborating with
Fantastic.
Uni.
And Stuart?
Just a final thought from me. One of the things that I'd like Rio Tinto to sort of do better at is going faster. And to do that, I think kind of rotations between, in this case, Rio Tinto folk and the university and vice versa is going to be absolutely kind of instrumental to that. So that's a kind of key area, that focus that certainly we as Rio Tinto would like to kind of build on with the University of Sydney.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stuart. So I hope you've enjoyed the panel discussion today. I think there's been, we've a great discussion here around, I guess the breadth of industries that each of our panellists work in, and the importance of that collaboration in terms of pulling through technology and, as you mentioned, Brett, the design to manufacture, really accelerating, which is what we need. So I'd like you to join me in thanking our panellists for today.
Thank you to all our panelists, Anna Kliss, Brad Cooper, and Stuart Watsons. And thank you to Dr. Claire Anderson for facilitating our industry panel. Professor Willie Zwanapol, the Dean of Engineering, will now wrap up these sessions and officially open the conference. Willie, please.
So I realize I'm the one standing between you and the coffee, so I'll make it short. Usually at an academic conference, one is always late. Here we seem to be ahead of time. I don't know whether that's due to the presence of industry people or not. Can I have the next slide, please? So I just want to say a few words about how to partner with us, and then I'll thank some of the people that were involved in creating this event, which is taking great shape. So if you look at the slide here, the first two, I think, are sort of the standard engagement means for industry and government. With the university, you engage with the team at the university, the experts and their teams. It's very important to have access to technology that comes out of the lab, but as was mentioned repeatedly, if you now look at the fourth one here, prototyping, piloting, scaling, and applying the technology, that is really one of the areas where industry can help us. This is, in the university, we can build things in a lab, we can maybe build a pilot plant, but we cannot build large pilots, we cannot put things in practice. And so it's really great to see that, in fact, in all three of the interactions that were described, this is exactly what's going on, and that's really fantastic, and I hope we can do more of that. And then the final two, I want to talk a little bit about short courses and student industry placements. So technology is very important in net zero. Policy, cultural things are very important. But above all, I think it's people that are important. And I think we're going to be short on people to do this. You know, it's in any walk of life right now very hard to hire people. It's going to be particularly hard in the net zero industry. I was a couple of weeks back I was in Switzerland, where I used to live before I came to Australia. I went to a jobs fair that the canton, the local state there, organized. And so remarkably, 1/3 of the stands were devoted to energy and sustainability. And that is a phenomenal change from the days that I was working there as a head of school. Energy was sort of considered a bit of an old-fashioned area. Now it's front and center, and there's a tremendous, tremendous demand for people. Now, we can supply, and that's, I think, our main focus as a university in the end, supply those people. We can supply them through new undergraduates that enter into the industry. We can also supply them through retooling existing people for the new industries. So that's sort of the two things that are mentioned here, short courses and micro-credentials. So the old model of postgraduate education was that you came back to the university and did a master's or something like that, spent a year or 2 years even. That's clearly not possible anymore. That's just not practical. The only way that we can achieve that right now is through micro-credentialing. And so the university is very active in that space. We have already, as Kentai mentioned, a few micro-credentials in this space that we're developing. But we're really, in a sense, looking for your input. What is it that you would need, and how should it be delivered for it to be of optimal value to you? So that's one main thing that in terms of engaging with us, I think we can really benefit from on both sides. The other one is what's called, it's a bit of a mouthful, it's called ESIPS. It's, I can never remember what the acronym stands for. It's some part is student industry placement, but I forget now what the E and the S at the beginning at the end stand for. Basically what it is, I think it's a very interesting and very successful program. It's limited to our top students in engineering. They spend 6 months in industry while at the same time getting credit at the university. So it's both industry work and university credit. It's co-supervised by somebody in the industrial partner and an academic at the university. It's been very, very successful. The companies that have participated in it and the students that have participated in it have been extremely satisfied, to the point that many of them, and that's probably part of the goal, have been hired by the industry where they did their internship. So we would definitely like to grow that program. I think we have slightly over 50 such students a year. We would like to grow that to a couple of 100. So this is another place where we could really very beneficially engage. It's also been actually the catalyst for broader interactions beyond sort of co-supervising the student, for broader interactions between the industry partner and the academic that's supervising it. So if I can get the next slide. So the standard way, like I said, of interacting is to interact with the experts in the university. We have a couple of slides here with the leads of each of the individual pillars of the NZI. I think most of them or all of them are here. So I would encourage you to interact with them, to use this occasion to maybe first get acquainted, if you're not already, with the people involved. With that, the final thing I want to do is thank everybody. Thank the people for coming. Thank the people out there in Zoom land for attending. Would in particular like to thank Felicity, Anna-Marie, Claire, and the industry panelists for their presence, some of them coming from out of town. I really appreciate that. And with that, I'll close this opening session and open the conference for real. Thank you very much.